All right, we're back, everybody. Here to continue our series, our Heresy series, and talk more about defending the faith against incipient sub-Christian cultic groups whose aim really is to subvert the faith and to really, in a lot of ways, deceive many people and bring them into a deception, an illusion. And so I don't typically do huge apologetic things. I do think, though, there is a place for apologetics, and it is to sharpen our understanding of the gospel's application, that it is a gospel of truth and a gospel of purity, a gospel of power, and a gospel that is to persuade and to convince us of the saving work of Jesus Christ, not some mixture of what Jesus has done and what we have done, or a mixture of who Jesus is in the scriptures with the Jesus of an imagination of some sort, or a false teacher. So it's important that we do this from time to time. I think it's healthy if someone is called to apologetics to do apologetics with their whole heart, given that's their calling, their vocation. But I also want to remind us that apologetics cannot substitute itself for the gospel. The gospel is the power of God for salvation, first to the Jew, then to the Gentile. It's the power of God for salvation by faith and for faith. It's God's gospel that is the power that gives life, not apologetics. But apologetics is necessary and helpful, and we are called, it says in Jude verse 3, to contend for the faith once given for all, okay? So there's this kind of deposit of faith. You can see this from Romans 6 and 17, from Jude verse 3, along with, Revelation toward the end in chapter 22. It talks about, taking away or adding to this truth. So there's a body of divinity. There's a body of truth that we're given, so that we must understand that truth as opposed to errors that come against that truth in a subtraction or addition kind of way. And so today we're gonna build on that understanding of how to do apologetics and how to compare the body of divinity that we have been given to hold fast to grow deeper in, to continue to proclaim against the Jehovah's Witness, okay? And the Jehovah's Witnesses are a formidable foe when it comes to evangelizing to them and to not get swindled and confused. They are masters of confusion, okay? Whereas Mormons, I think, are a little bit more upfront, if you could say that, with their views on the afterlife, on exaltation, though they have a lot of secrecy in their temple ceremonies. Jehovah's Witnesses are masters of confusion and deception. And you'll see that as we go on and talk about this for a while, okay? So I thought what we'd do is something similar to last time, where I talked very briefly about the origins of the Jehovah's Witnesses, or better called the Russellites, and then from that talk about their doctrine, their practices, and really what is our answer to them in a summary fashion. So very quickly, again, the origin of the Jehovah's Witnesses, also known as the Russellites, the Charles Taze Russell followers, is pretty it's pretty winding in its road and how it kind of became the Jehovah's Witnesses. But I thought in a few minutes I would just try to summarize that. Charles Taze Russell comes out of western Pennsylvania, Allegheny, Pennsylvania, and comes out of the Congregationalist background. Notice again, just like Joseph Smith came out of a kind of a Methodist persuasion initially, but then of course dabbled himself in some sort of Lost Tribes of Israel theology in upstate New York. Most of these people have a lot of contact with organized, as they call it, religion, Christian faith, and denominational practice. So heresy tends to spring forth from the body itself of believers, not from somewhere outside. So that's important. That's why it's heresy, not orthodoxy. So it's against what is true. It's anti-truth. So that's why we call it heterodox. So heresy is coming out of kind of an antagonism against what is true. And it springs forth from the actual body itself in some sense. Some strange religion coming out of the body of truth. So again, we got to protect ourselves and understand that a lot of heresy is typically coming from the ranks of Christian faith. So again, that's why we must see that inside first and protect ourselves, discern against those things. So he comes out of a congregationalist background, and from an early age, really abhorred the teaching of hell, and quickly came to a conclusion as a teenager that hell was not real, that the only thing is real is death and annihilation. So started to teach that as a Bible teacher in a church, and was quickly dismissed and moved on. And then we have a lot of records of his life. They kind of became a self-styled pastor, and this is a tale as old as time for cults. A self-styled pastor. There is no such thing. Do you understand? There is no such thing as someone who appoints themselves as a pastor in the Christian faith. Even Jesus the Christ, the Lord of glory, when he came, he spoke not the words of himself, but the words the Father gave him. In John chapter 5, he attests to the words he's heard and says he speaks only what he has heard and been told. There is no such thing as a self-appointed, self-styled pastor. You were only given and appointed that from a greater authority, and that's what we see even in Jesus' human life. He derives his authority from the power of God himself. That there is no such thing as a self-styled pastor. We see Charles Taze Russell at the end of the 19th century and into the early 20th century as a self-styled charlatan, essentially. He has a long history, again, similar to Joseph Smith, of fraudulent activity, of fraudulent marketing of his evangelistic endeavors in China, in Hawaii, in Canada, and on. This is a total charlatan in every sense. And so what we need to understand is this man was not a man of integrity by any sense. And in fact, in his many his many trials before juries that were calling to account his ethics and his practices, he purged himself numerous times. So this man is not a man to be followed even in basic business practice, let alone your eternal destiny. This is someone to flee from. This is someone whose teachings must be rejected. Let alone, we haven't even gotten to it yet, but he's not a man to be trusted. So he's a self-styled pastor. He's come up with really kind of a marketing ploy, and was even early on in his own activities, was considered basically someone who's just trying to make a buck. His religion was styled as a money-making scheme. And really, as you investigate the Watchtower, you investigate the Jehovah's Witness organization, and you investigate even the origins of the Russellism, the Russellite belief, it's really a pyramid scheme, if you kind of think about it. It's really styled and set up to be that way, where it's really one person at the top and then everyone else kind of filters down from there, authoritatively and the way it works monetarily. It's the same thing with pyramid schemes. So it's, in a lot of ways, it's just a religious pyramid scheme if you see it from the origin on. After Charles Taze Russell died, I think it was J.F. Rutherford, a judge, someone who was within the organization, well-liked, took over and kind of doubled the efforts of the organization. And he is the one who finally came up with the Jehovah's Witness moniker and changed the name of the organization officially to the Jehovah's Witnesses, which he takes from Isaiah 43:10 and styles it like that because he was basically trying to rebrand the religion because of Charles Taze Russell's background, because of his, he was a self-styled pastor. He had no training at all in anything. He was not trained in philosophy or religion or theology or the languages, has no Bible understanding, and was shown to know very, very next to nothing. Even in his studies in scriptures, he's repudiating basic doctrines of Christianity through his early studies. And he had 7 well-known studies early in the 20th century that were produced. And these are kind of where you can pull his doctrine from primarily. So the rebranding of Russellite into the Jehovah's Witnesses happens, I think, somewhere in the 40s, if I'm correct. Maybe no, probably before that, I think. Maybe in the 30s. But it was rebranded because of all the cleanup and the collateral damage that Rutherford had to clean up from Russell's background, from his charlatan kind of work, his fraudulent activity, his false marketing campaigns, his evangelistic endeavors that never happened. And again, his self-styled pastor kind of moniker that doesn't hold up, doesn't have any integrity when it's underneath the microscope of evaluation for if he's actually authentic as a pastor or not, and he's not. So what we see, I think, from this origin is, again, we pull from Deuteronomy 18 to respond to this. And in Deuteronomy 18, it talks about the great final prophet, and really even talks about kind of prophets that follow Moses, but he talks about a final prophet, a new prophet to come like him. But it also sets up a precedent of how to receive prophets as either true or false. And in Deuteronomy 18, it says that that prophets presume, of course, to speak the word of God. And it says in chapter 18, verse 20, "But the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name that I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other gods, that same prophet shall die." And it goes on to say, when a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the word does not come to pass or come true, that is a word that the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken presumptuously. You should not be afraid of him. Folks, we need to understand this. There are tons of people who claim to speak for God. If this person's prophecy, especially those who try to predict the future or who try to predict about what will come, and it does not come true, one, according to the Bible, this person should not be feared and is under intense judgment. In fact, in the Old Testament economy, they would die, probably on the spot. So what we see here is that you should not fear a false prophet. You should be discerned about their teachings, to reject it, to refute it, and to hold fast to the faith once delivered. Okay? We also see from Galatians 1, 8 and 9, Apostle Paul even turns on himself to talk about how to authenticate witnesses that are true prophets and apostles. And Paul even puts himself underneath the microscope here. It's pretty fascinating. And he says, "But even if we," talking about the apostles, Paul and the apostles, "or an angel from heaven," okay, "should preach to you a gospel contrary to the one we preach to you, let him be accursed. As we have said before, so now I say again, if anyone is preaching to you a gospel contrary to the one you received, let him be accursed." That is a way of saying, let that person be condemned. This person's anathema, okay? This is a serious charge. To call yourself an angel of light, yet be a wolf. To call yourself a shepherd, yet be an angel of darkness and controlled by darkness, is extremely dangerous according to the scripture, okay? So someone who sets themselves up as a messenger of God, who speaks a word that is not of God, that is not according to his word, but according to your imagination or human reason or human fancy or just plain old lying, okay, comes underneath the intense scrutiny of God's word and of God himself as judge. So we should not be afraid of Charles Taze Russell. We should not be afraid of the Watchtower, the Jehovah's Witnesses, given that they have time and time again produced false prophecy. Okay? And it's not like it's a mystery. You don't have to go out there and search underneath all the branches and the bushes and everything. You can see repeatedly their false prophecy and the continued changing of their prophecy over time, whether it be their New World Translation Bible, their tracts and their pamphlets, their website. You see time and time again the dawn of millennium, the return of Christ, in the sense of bringing the 144,000 to heaven. All these things that they prophesy about have not come to pass. You have no need to fear these people, but we do have a responsibility to refute this and to also tell them the true gospel. Okay, so that's briefly on the origins of this cult, and it shows all the makings of a cult when it's one man who rejects all organized religion, and this is why Jehovah's Witnesses are even more insidious when it comes to this than even Mormonism, though Mormonism has a similar start, is when a person tries to set up a religion by claiming that all other religion, all organized Christianity is false. There's the major red flag, okay? Because the Bible promises that hell will not overtake God's people. It's pretty clear in the book of Matthew. Hell will not overtake us. There will not be some great apostasy of the church where the whole church falls away and has to be restored. So this restorationist idea that's true in Mormonism is also true here in Jehovah's Witness belief. is that they believe they're restoring the true church through Charles Taze Russell and through the Watchtower Society. Okay, the Bible does not allow for that to be the case. Okay, the Lord Jesus will never allow his church to fall underneath the wiles of hell, to the place where then it becomes in a place of needing restoration. Okay, so that's how it'll tip us off, is that when someone claims that the whole church, all organized religion, has gone to hell in a handbasket and needs to be restored, there's the red flag. And then secondly, when it's just one person who believes that they have found the key to success, there's the other red flag. That's a cult. Okay, so what are some of the doctrines? And again, I won't be exhaustive. There's a lot, and the purpose of this discussion, purpose of my channel is not to be a scholarly take on everything. There's books for that, but it is to help people kind of see a window into, okay, this is where I need to go to understand further about this. And also, this is some good content to help me on the right path, I think, okay? So, just in general, the place of authority for the Watchtower, for the Jehovah's Witness, is the society known as the Watchtower Society. And really, it's kind of like Big Brother in a lot of ways, but a religious organization that is now situated in Brooklyn, New York. It has been for about the last 100 years or more. Yeah, I think like the last 113 or 14 years. It's been there in Brooklyn since 1908. So this Watchtower Society basically is the rubber stamp of what goes. It's an organization that leads. It's not necessarily a person anymore, though it used to be with Charles Taze Russell and then J.F. Rutherford. And there's always been kind of a lead personality. But now more than ever, it's become more jw.org, the Watchtower Society. It's really become more of kind of that large umbrella organization that controls everything. And the way it works, again, is highly symptomatic of a pyramid scheme, where from that society, it works down to, I think it's district or branches, then districts and circuits, and then local congregations. And then from that, there's an overseer, then there's an elder, then there's a pioneer, then there's a publisher. I mean, it's extremely unique in a religious context to be so close to a pyramid scheme, but it is. It's a religious pyramid scheme in a whole lot of ways. Their view of God is simple as this. It's this idea that is very similar. It's actually got two heresies that are kind of combined. First, it believes in one God in a numerical sense only. Okay, so it's monotheistic, but not Trinitarian. Okay. At the same time, it also has a strong semblance and resemblance to Unitarianism, okay, that views Jesus really more as the highest reason of God and a created being, okay, and the Spirit as a force, not really as a person of any kind. There's no personality with the Holy Spirit. This is very similar to what's the doctrine known as Socinianism, which is a real liberal theological viewpoint in the 18th century, though has many underpinnings earlier than that then eventually gave way to the Unitarian Universalist denomination, where there's this view of God as one, but really reason is the way to achieve, linkage with God. And the Jehovah's Witnesses are very focused on reason. So because of that, Jesus can't be God, and because it doesn't make any sense, right? Reasonability. Trinity is something to be denied. And so what we see is one God numerically only, not one God in three persons. And Jesus is the first created being, and this is the other part of the heresy. You have kind of that Unitarian Socinianism on one side, where Jesus is reason and the Spirit is a force. And then you have on the other side, Jesus is the first created being. So there's Arianism. The bishop Arius from Alexandria, 4th century bishop, similar again to Mormonism, where Jesus is the first created being. And this is how God relates to his creation in their view, instead of in this kind of immediate kind of sense through the creation and through condescension and covenant, which is more of the Christian tradition universally. It's creating this being that God then relates to the creation through. And the way the Trinitarian view is that God speaks the world into creation, and his word and breath, Son and Spirit, okay, are what create. So God, through the whole Trinity, creates the world, though God the Father is the source. But it's the whole Trinity creating the universe. So God relates to his creation in Trinity. not through a separate created lesser being who kind of mediates his will and really helps the reason of people to connect with God. So Jesus is really this complex figure in Jehovah's Witness belief, but he really is a combination of two ancient heresies. Arianism, okay, with Arius, the bishop from Alexandria, and Socinianism, which is really a highly evolved rationalism that basically creates Jesus to be just this logos, the highest reason, okay? Not really a person, certainly not God, all right? Second is, again, another sense of salvation, similar to Mormonism, where there's kind of a halfway house being given here, where Jesus is taking you halfway. His atonement on the cross, while they also don't believe, a lot of problems there too, but the atonement idea that they have is that Jesus is really just removing the Adamic sin that is inherited in us, but he's not really doing anything for us beyond that, okay? He is only making, like, opening a door for you to work your way to heaven, all right? So Jesus' atonement kind of does half the work, and you do the rest. That's similar, very similar to the Mormon view, where basically the sin nature or the pollution from Adam's sin, it's called semi-Pelagianism, is removed, and then it's kind of more up to your free will to atone for the rest of your sin and to meet God the rest of the way. And this is really common to semi-Pelagian views, okay, which is not biblical at all, okay? And there's a lot of even Christian denominations that teach something along this line that are heretical here. So salvation for them is kind of half atonement on Jesus' side, half atonement on your side, and you have to kind of meet him there and then go the rest of the way, okay? So again, Jesus is not as much the Redeemer as he is the exemplar. That's primarily what Mormonism and Jehovah's Witnesses teach about salvation. And it's very clear that it's works-based, highly works-based. Legalistic doesn't go far enough. It's highly works-based. And then they have a bunch of other crazy ideas about all sorts of theology that are way off because their interpretation of the Bible is according to a heightened rationalism. It's also just grammatically incorrect. They're interpreting the Bible with an interpretation already in place. This idea that Jesus is just the Logos, but he's more heightened reason, and he's a created being who helps us penetrate God's mind through our own reason. So again, it's kind of a heightened rationalism. Heresy known as Arianism. Again, Arius is this kind of continues to poke his head up in these cults, and all sorts of other things, such as the belief that the soul is not immortal. The soul is just this kind of principle of life to them. So the soul dies. So soul goes away. Soul can be annihilated. Okay, if you don't make it into the kingdom of heaven for them, whether it's on earth or in heaven, they actually have a two-tier system. You're not going to make it. Your soul's going to disintegrate. It's going to be annihilated. They believe the same is true of Satan and his fallen angels. They're just going to be annihilated. So the soul is not this eternal thing, okay? The soul is not this understanding that you have, or not eternal, but soul is not an immortal thing. It's a principle of life that can go away, okay? So they believe in the doctrine called soul sleep, that you kind of sleep and your soul just kind of dissipates and you're unconscious, okay? Or annihilation, instead of going to hell, you're just annihilated. You cease to exist, okay? And both of those are dangerous heresies. They deny the resurrection, essentially. They deny the regeneration of the person's soul, and that the resurrection of Jesus applies to all people at all times and all places. He has reclaimed creation and regenerated it in a sense that all will be resurrected. Okay, not just believers. All will be resurrected and face judgment, because God has not trashed his world, but he's restored his world. But as the rightful king, he also judges all flesh. Okay, so we don't believe in immortal spirits. Christians don't believe that. That's a Greek mythological view. It is also a view the Mormons take, which is wrong. But we do believe in the incorruptibility of the soul when it's regenerated. We see this in 1 Corinthians 15. We also believe in the soul being preserved, okay, because of Jesus Christ. But preserved to judgment, preserved to new life, okay? So the doctrine of regeneration or the doctrine of condemnation, okay? Those are two very true, consistent Orthodox truths in Scripture. So again, We don't believe that the soul is this eternal thing that's kind of in limbo out there, but we were created, okay? But at the same time, because of Jesus Christ, the person will not be tossed or trashed or annihilated. The person will remain. Their soul will remain. When we die, our bodies and our spirits separate for a time. They're divorced because of judgment. Okay, but at the final judgment, we will be restored and glorified if we know Christ as Savior and Redeemer, and we will be glorified in our bodies, not just spirits up there. And also in the same thing, we will either come back together, body and soul, and be damned if we do not know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. So it's a really important doctrine, crucial for Christianity. So to deny the soul's permanence, after the fact, is to deny really the resurrection, of which they do. They really deny the resurrection in that sense, because again, it's really more if you get to live on earth, you get to live on heaven, or you get to be annihilated. So they're really denying the resurrection in that sense. And then a few other things, you'll see this a lot, but again, the Watchtower is known for all of its false prophecy. You can see it from the very beginning when they started to claim that 1914 is when Jesus came back, but not in a body. There it is again, that kind of anti-body kind of reason thing coming through, where Jesus doesn't have a body, but he kind of was turned into a spirit creature. That's kind of what it says even in the New World Translation and their pamphlets, that he's really just a spirit creature. And so we see this again, that he came back to rule the universe in 1914, but we can't see him. He's invisible. He's a spirit. The Bible doesn't teach this. The Bible teaches very clearly that he rose again in the same body that he died in, but yet it was a transformed body. And even before he was glorified, it was like, don't touch me, but they could see him. They could see him. And he was eating fish, in John 21. So it's a body, but it's a transformed body. It's he had not been translated yet into heaven, but it was a transformed body. So again, the body's not done away with. And we see again with Jehovah's Witnesses, the body being done away with in many places, all right? So whether it's the soul sleep idea or prophecy is saying Jesus has come back, for their view, 1914, to set up this invisible kingdom, which he's supposed to bring back in 1,000 years. He's supposed to usher in his final kingdom. Well, that hasn't happened. It's 2021. So over the course of the last 30 years, they've been changing their prophecy to fit that it hasn't come about. So again, no need to fear their prophecy. And lastly, their view on human government is really the Jehovah's Witnesses are fairly anarchist. I mean, they don't celebrate any holidays. They don't recognize any government as having any authority whatsoever. They're well known to be conscious objectors to any war. They don't celebrate birthdays. They don't celebrate Christmas or Easter or any holidays. They really just have once a year a Lord's Supper together as a whole organization. What you see here is, again, a complete denial of Romans 13, 1 through 7. God has set up governments to do his will, magistrates to execute his will. It doesn't mean that everyone is saved or a Christian, but God is concerned and involved with providentially carrying out justice in his world, though it will be consummated in its final sense when Jesus Christ, the pure, true, one and only just judge, will judge the world in righteousness and holiness. And we see that again from Romans 14, 10 through 12, the book of Revelation, Revelation 20, 21. We see these things coming to conclusion, but God's not aloof until that time. He's given civil magistrates. He's given governments, human governments. And Jehovah's Witnesses, again, you thought fundamentalists were crazy. This view is like we reject all governments of any kind, seeing themselves as spiritual citizens only of Jehovah, whereas Christians understand themselves as dual citizens. We see this especially in Philippians 2, but we're dual citizens. We're citizens here. We're also citizens in heaven. And God is going to bring those back together when Christ is all in all. He's not trashing the earth, okay? And that's kind of what they're doing there, in a sense. They're trashing God's concern for the earth. And then lastly, they believe in kind of a two-tiered understanding of heaven and earth. They believe that many people that did their part, that, were atoned for their sins through Jesus and their own efforts, they get to be, celebrating God on earth. And there's this kind of kingdom of earth. The heavenly kingdom is actually a different thing. So the heavenly kingdom is really kind of God's special election of 144,000 Jews, apparently, that are spiritual followers of Jehovah, and they don't really understand that in a literal sense. They understand that in a spiritual sense, where it's just those 144,000 are translated to heaven to rule with Jehovah, and everyone else kind of gets the second tier and get to serve the Lord on earth. Again, highly questionable hermeneutic, highly selective, highly contradictory hermeneutic. And again, you have to even write your own Bible, but you still write in a bunch of contradictions there. So highly problematic. So what should we do with this? Well, I think first, if you know a Jehovah's Witness, I've known many in my life, you need to pray for them, because these people are in bondage. They're in bondage. They're enslaved to works, and they are deceived by their pride. They think that God is a taskmaster. They think God is trying to get them to do all the stuff that I guess He's unwilling to do in their view. They really are in bondage to slavery of sin and pride and delusions. And so we need to pray for anyone that we know that's a Jehovah's Witness. I drive by a Kingdom Hall pretty much at least once a week. So just it should incite us to pray for these people that are in bondage to works. Hebrews 6:1 says we need to mature beyond the elementary truths of repentance from dead works. That's a key verse. These folks are full of works, full of efforts and activities, but they're dead works. Our repentance is from dead works. See, there's so many people that think Christianity is about just saving bad people to becoming good people. No. It is saving bad people to become grace people, and it's saving good people to becoming grace people. Both are dead works, you see? And that's the problem here, is that it's not necessarily that these people are terrible people. They're probably great people in a lot of ways, but they need to repent from their dead works. The second thing is we need to pray and we need to evangelize to them to expose the pride. This is rooted in pride. You know, it's the first lie of the enemy. You can be like God. You know, I'll show you the secret, right? God has not asked us to be like Him in that sense, where we use our reason or we use some sort of speculation and pierce into His counsel. That won't happen. That can't happen. Okay, we're finite. He's infinite. The only thing that He wants us to know, He's given us. It's grace, okay? It's grace in Jesus Christ. It's to obey His will. But His will is not to pierce into His counsel with our reason, our finite mindset, okay? So I think there's a prayer consistently that we need to pray for these folks that are lost. And also, when we do engage them, we do need to engage them and to really confront the pride of works, okay? And then lastly, we need to remind them with love. But we do need to remind them that those who are not in Christ are still under the judgment of Adam. They're still under the judgment of the fall. They're still naturally underneath the law of works that are dead, that cannot save them. The goal is not to be dead in works, but to be dead to sin, Romans 6 says, and to be alive in Christ Jesus. To be alive by the Spirit. Those who are walking in the Spirit are the children of God, you know, Romans 8:14. So we need to help them understand dead works won't save you. Dead to sin and alive in Christ will, through the power of the Holy Spirit. So I think there's a big work to do. And there's also, I think, lastly, a lot of discernment that we've got to have to protect ourselves from Jehovah's Witnesses, because their strategy is not to try to, you know, drum up new converts from kind of secular society. Typically, them, along with Mormons, really try to pick off a lot of inconsistent, kind of untrained, and probably unconverted people that are in Christian denominations. So we must train our people, and we must also continue to teach them the truth and to expose the lie of human pride and dead works. So I hope that's helpful. And next time we'll probably do something on the Word of Faith movement or the prosperity gospel and finish up our series probably with that. All right, signing off.